as far as I understand, there are no talks going on right now, and it feels like we've just settled into a, I don't want to say détente, but things have kind of stalled in terms of diplomacy.
Right. That's a really good way to put it, Scarlett. Though there are a few developments that we're watching this morning and as we head into the weekend. New today, we did hear from Iran's president seeming to urge a diplomatic solution ahead of what is expected to be ramped up economic pressure by the Trump administration against Iran. Iran's president, who has been relatively a more moderate figure within the government, urging for some sort of negotiated end to the conflict, saying earlier today, quote, "It would be better to end the war today when we have power and dignity." This was taken as a sign that there may be some sort of renewed bid to get back to the negotiating table. But by and large, we haven't seen really much public indication that that's going to happen, including when you take into account that we know that there are various factions within the Iranian government, including the hardliners, the IRGC members, that haven't really been pushing for that route. Instead, that's led the U.S. to now say that they are going to ramp up these economic measures. We're waiting in high anticipation for the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Monday, who says he's going to more fully unveil what those plans are going to look like, though we know that there are some options on the table, which Scarlett is raising questions about what the U.S. may do when it comes to Chinese imports of Iranian crude.
Tyler, let's continue there, because obviously President Trump is going to be speaking with the Chinese leader in about a month's time or so. And China imports a lot of oil from Iran, as well as some other goods and services. So how do you think that those negotiations are going to shape up?
I mean, this is going to definitely set the backdrop there. We'll have to see whether or not this is some sort of leverage tool that we've often seen the White House invoke ahead of these high stakes meetings. But the Treasury Secretary made pretty clear that the U.S. is going to unveil something tangible. So if it is related to targeted actions against those that help facilitate Iran's oil trade, that would squarely put the attention on China, as you mentioned, the top buyer of Iranian crude, to the tune of 90% of Iran's petroleum exports ultimately go to Beijing. But then we have this backdrop of this visit. Xi Jinping's going to be here in Washington in about a month's time. But I did want to point out that previously, when we've seen the U.S. lobby sanctions, we've had China issue what's known as a blocking order, essentially instructing Chinese firms to ignore the U.S. sanctions. So that's also going to raise some questions here about what compliance is going to look like. But for both of you, we should also keep in mind not just China that could be targeted by these economic pressure. This campaign, we know that Turkey was the second top importer of Iranian goods last year, India, and then also the UAE, which has already moved to cut ties.
All right. Great context there, Tyler. Before we let you go, I got to ask you about this latest measure by the White House to lower beef prices. We know that beef prices have been soaring in recent years. The cattle herd is not big enough, and demand for beef continues because everyone wants protein because they're all on GLP-1. Anyway, what has the White House done when it comes to ground beef, which is kind of its new focus?
So this was a new announcement from the president this morning that the U.S. is going to allow 300,000 metric tons of ground beef to be imported without a tariff, and then that ground beef is going to be sold at 25% less than the current market rate. We didn't get any other details beyond that, including where this beef is going to be coming from, but it is a bid by the administration to bring down those costs at a time where we are starting to see the consumer pull back from their beef purchases. And this actually has been one of those goods that's been rather resilient even among higher costs. People kept buying ground beef even as it got more expensive, but I grabbed some of the latest stats for you. Data shows us that beef volumes in the 13 weeks ending July 13th were down 0.3% from a year ago. And that is significant because this is considered to be actually the time when Americans are buying a lot of ground beef. We're in between July 4th and the Labor Day holiday. Instead, the data shows that they are buying more chicken, which is a cheaper meat product. So it shows us that they're starting to skew away from those higher prices. Scarlett, the administration's done some other efforts to try to ease prices related to beef, importing from other countries like Argentina, as well as letting live cattle shipments resume from Mexico, but nothing's really seemed to be able to bring down those stubborn prices.